Your old friend, you either love or hate the slide. Clearly we've got Peyer's patch. We've got villi. You can pick up the goblet cells quite nicely, except for on villi like this, where right there is muscularis mucosa, and look how it's just kind of disintegrated because the infiltrate is so intense. Right along here, you're lacking goblet cells. Here, just across the way, you pick them up. So this would be a good place to start scoping for M epithelial cells or M cells, right? Especially if you're going to do electron microscopy, I'd trim the block down in a region like that. All right. Where are we?
Large intestine.
Okay, clearly large intestine. So imagine just cutting the villi off, leaving behind intestinal glands, kicking up the number of goblet cells, the relative number. You don't have a lot of absorption. You're not absorbing most of the nutrients, the carbohydrates, proteins and fats, all taken care of in the small intestine. Here it's mostly water, and you got to produce a lot of mucus to lubricate the fecal mass as it moves down the tract. Yeah, this is kind of nice to get it both in long and cross section. I don't think I did. So the mucosa resembles the large intestine or the colon. The lymphoid tissue, the follicles, unlike the ileum, are completely circumferential in the submucosa and in regions like this, infiltrating up into the mucosa. And what kind of papillae? Filiform papillae, right? You can see down here we've got the visceral striated muscle, remember, that runs in X, Y, and Z planes, which gives us the exquisite mobility that allows us to speak. Yeah, circumvallate papillae, and you can see the nice taste buds, the duct from that von Ebner's gland. It helps lubricate. Here you can see nicely, almost hallucinate the little taste port coming out. How do you know? Serous acini, well, ducts, which tells you it's an exocrine gland, serous acini. But if you come across something like this, make sure you search the whole section, right? Because as you remember, the seromucous acini or the mucus acini in the submandibular gland, can, until you get your search image squared away, can kind of be like they're hiding from you, all right? But you're right, parotid gland. Nice shot of the ducts. Striated duct, actually, and this would be a transporting epithelium, transporting ions, and the serous acini. And here's those serous demilune, so seromucus acinus. This looks like purely mucus acinus right there. Okay, I'll mention that at the end. Well, I'll say it now. You're going to see parotid, you're going to see submandibular. Okay? I'm giving you slides that are going to be on the exam. What are we looking at here? Liver. What do we call this region right here? All right? And you can see clearly the bile duct. Yeah, branch thereof. And then probably portal vein right here. And these kind of irregular spaces could be lymphatics. Yeah, or terminal hepatic venule, which will drain into the central vein. Either one is fine. And then you can see these plates or cords of hepatocytes between. The white spaces would be the... Okay, blood is flowing which way? That way? All right. And lymph and bile, obviously, the other way. This is a higher power shot of what we just looked at. So kind of tangential through the wall of the bile duct here we see the lumen, and you can pick out that it's a simple cuboidal. We can see the little scrunched down representation of the artery, the larger branches of the hepatic portal vein, and the lymphatic right there. So the black blobs are what? Yeah, Kupffer cell, or hepatic macrophages, if you will. And for the most part, they're hanging out in the sinusoidal lumen. See a nice shot of bile duct over there. Yeah, gallbladder, how do you know? It's kind of one of those funky by exclusion, but still, go for it, Rebecca. How do you know?
It's a really weird way of knowing. I remember it because
No, that's cool.
Have you ever seen the movie The Little Mermaid?
Yeah, I have.
In Ursula's cave, she turns the mermaids into these little squiggly things.
All right, I'll accept that. But now let's apply some histologic terminology. These little squiggly things look kind of like folds, or like villi.
Yeah.
You get away with that. I mean, that was creative. I'll go with it. But what's lacking in the epithelial lining? Goblet cells, exactly. And then the other thing is you don't have a muscularis mucosa. You basically have the lamina propria sitting right on top of the muscularis. Okay? You will see gallbladder slides. Okay? I mean, when you think about it, it's not too difficult to figure out what slides you're going to see. All the difficult, all the tough ones. All right, what are we looking at here? Yeah, this is another slide that will be on the exam. And how do we know it's pancreas? Exactly. And here, here.
Should we
So,
assume that we're always going to get a good stain? Like, because sometimes the stains that are really pale, it's hard to see that there's lighter sections.
we will do our best to provide material that's reasonable. I mean, we don't, it doesn't do my ego any good to screw you guys that way. Okay, but pancreas is both exocrine and endocrine, right? So you're going to see ducts out here in the connective tissue, as well as the serous acini, and you're going to see these pale staining endocrine components. Again, this will be on the exam. You know, you look at this at first and it doesn't look distinct, but then when you start really looking at it, you can see that these cells definitely look different than the exocrine component, secretory component. What's this right here? Capillary? It's tubular, I'll give you that. If it's capillary, what kind of epithelium should we be looking at? What kind of epithelium is that? Cuboidal. It's probably an intercalated duct. Remember? You have the centroacinar cells, which lead into the smallest ducts, the intercalated ducts, which drain into the, intralobular ducts. Pituitary, right? And remember, this is a parasagittal section. So the stalk, or the infundibulum, is out of the plane of section. Many of your pituitary glands were interesting in that they were sections like this, looking down. All right? But you've got, what part is this? Or, fancy word here? Adenohypophysis. Posterior or? Good. And you can see these colloid-filled cysts of the pars intermedia. So pars distalis, pars intermedia, pars nervosa. The tuberalis would wrap around the infundibulum and the infundibular stalk. It's above or below plane of section. High power. Again, eosinophils, basophils, I'm not going to ask you to identify them, but you need to know what hormones they produce and what the hormones do. And I'll elaborate on that in a minute. Yes, I mean on your deathbed. You should recognize it. All right? Colloid-filled cysts. Again, what are the hormones that the thyroid gland produces? And? Yes. Calcitonin, from the parafollicular C cells out in the interstitium, T3, T4 from the actual follicles. Another shot here.